Echoes in the Concrete. Chapter 1. It was 6:47 a.m. and the sun was already flirting with the windows of Craig's third-floor apartment in Brooklyn. The sounds of the city had begun their relentless chorus. Garbage trucks growling, someone yelling in Spanish down the street, and a siren wailing its way into the distance. The smell of pepper stew awkwardly mixed with the cinnamon scent of the neighbor's morning bagel. Inside the medium but well-loved apartment on Church Avenue, already wearing her signature outfit in print, our gaily slightly tilted, was instructing Alexa to play Ebenezer while slicing onions for our Ignosis. It's food prep day. Alexa, play Miliki Express. And don't misbehave this morning, eh? Alexa responded with robotic cheerfulness. The music flooded the kitchen, and within seconds, Mama Craig was humming along, hips swaying as if still in her grandmother's village compound in Ibadan. Meanwhile, our daughter, 14-year-old Amy, sat at the dining table, glaring at her phone. Mom, can you know? This is so loud. I have an epic quiz first period. You don't want to start your day with good music. That's your problem. You children of nowadays. No roots, no rhythm. Mama Craig replied, not missing the beat. Temi rolled her eyes and took a bite of toast slathered with peanut butter. Her own rebellion against the traditional breakfast of any other meal outside of cereals or bread family. Her younger brother Joshua, aged 9, sat cross-legged on the couch in his Spider-Man pajamas, building a Lego fortress while mouthing Yoruba phrases he'd recently heard from Nollywood films. He sat cross-legged on the couch as his Lego fortress took shape on the coffee table. Sunlight streaked across his bricks like it was blessing his mission. Then, without warning, he puffed out his chest and shouted, Moti pari ile oba, oba nini. From the kitchen, Mama Craig paused mid-stray, knife hovering over half a sliced onion. She peeks towards the living room, amused. Joshua, Kílódé tó ń pari palace nínú sitting room mi? He grinned, unfazed. It's not your living room today, it's Ibadan Kingdom. She shook her head, smiling, the scent of egusi and onions dancing with the old rhythms of Ebenezer Obey. Only one child in this house can build a palace before 7 a.m. Their father, Papa Craig, emerged from the bedroom, tie crooked and glasses slanted, muttering about the MTA delays again. No train in this blasted city runs on time. In Nigeria, at least, when there is no light, you know there's no light. Here, you wait with hope, only to be punished. Mama Craig smirked. Olga, this is the land of opportunity. You better carry your wallet to work on time. He grumbled and kissed her cheek before glancing towards Timmy. Good luck on your quiz. And remember, you are not just studying for yourself. You are studying for your village. Timmy blinked. Which village, Daddy? We live in Brooklyn. Chapter 2. At PS 191, Demi straddled towards like an acrobat with fraying rope. Her friends were a mosaic of cultures, Dominican, Haitian, Ghanaian, Pakistani. In the cafeteria, she unpacked her lunch, trying to discreetly remove the foil that held Mama Craig's signature jollof rice and fried goat. The moment the scent hit the air, heads turned. Yo, what's the smell? One of the white boys at the next table, her nose scrunched. Temi's friend Kihara jumped in. Smells good, dummy. That's flavor. Temi forced a tight smile and stabbed at her eye, pretending not to notice the stare. God, your mom threw down. Kiara whispered across the table, tossing her curls. This smells like food. I should have treated you for this nonsense sandwich. Temi let out a quiet laugh, but her fingers still hovered near the floor like it might swallow her whole. She could feel the burn of embarrassment. Her mom still refused to pack normal school lunches. No turkey sandwiches, no juice boxes, no Lunchables. Later, between classes, she texted her mom, next time, can you pack me a regular lunch, please? Something quiet. 3 dots danced on the screen, and her mom replied, so you want food that serves your spirit but blends in, my dear? You carry flavor, never hide it. After school, in the Craig family apartment, the door clicked shut behind Temi, her backpack lumping on the hardwood with a dirt that echoed more than it should have. The apartment smelled like palm oil and thyme. The egusi was long done, portioned and stacked in Tupperware across the counter like little care packages of love. Alexa was silent now, placed by the occasional hum of traffic through the window. She kicked off her sneakers and wandered into the kitchen, fingers brushing the foil-wrapped containers. Welcome, Mama Craig said, without turning, her hands elbow deep in soapy dishwater. Did you hit your lunch? Temi hesitated. Yeah. I'd be surprised, her mother replied gently. Temi didn't argue. Instead, she reached for her container, cracked it open and took a bite cold. Her mother didn't say a word, just watched her, a quiet smile tugging at her mouth. Tomorrow, Mama Craig said, I will add puff puff. Temi nodded and whispered, thanks. That night, she stood in the kitchen, arms crossed. Why can't I just have school lunch like everyone else? Mama Craig paused, her hands deep in a bowl of cassava dough. Because you are not like everyone else. You are a Craig. Your ancestors are watching. Temi's voice cracked. I didn't ask for ancestors. I asked for a ham sandwich, Mom. That was a long silence. Mama Craig sighed. You may not want them, but they want you. They built your bones. If you don't carry them, who will? The silence that followed was thick enough to spread on bread. Temi's hands stayed crossed. Her jaws clenched tight. Mama Craig didn't look up from the door. She kneaded slowly, rhythmically, as if the ancestors she mentioned were whispering to her through the grain. Temi finally muttered, "It's just lunch." Mama Craig looked up. Her eyes were soft but firm like wet clay ready to be shaped. It's never just lunch, Temi. It's a name, a story, a song. It's your grandmother roasting peppers by hand. It's your grandfather planting yams. It's back bent like a question mark. Temi blinked back tears and her voice came smaller this time. And what if I don't want to be a story? Mama Craig wiped her hands on the towel and stepped closer. Then write your own, but don't forget the ink you came from. Chapter 3. The neighborhood was buzzing with preparations for the West Indian Day Parade. Joshua was excited as always. He had been practicing his bata drum routine all week with the Caribbean youth troop. Papa Craig had been roped into organizing the Nigerian community float. Mama Craig was sewing green and white costumes for the kids, while Temi sobbed and texted her friends. Temi watched Mama Craig pin green fabric onto a half-finished costume on the living room floor, homing to Ebenezer Obey yet again. The sewing machine whirled between pulses as Mama Craig adjusted stitches. Joshua ran through the hallway barefoot, drumming an imaginary rhythm in the hair. Temi, hear this one, back, 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 he shouted. Joshua, my ears, I beg. She groaned, not looking up from her phone. Mama Craig held up the gele, a swirl of green and shimmering silver. This one will frame your face beautifully, like your grandmother's on her wedding day. Temi squinted. It's so big, like, am I going to launch into space? Mama Craig didn't flame. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Our culture should take up space. Temi stared at her screen, home still. A reflection glittered faintly in it. She didn't respond. She didn't want to wear the gele her mom had chosen. It was too loud, too African, too much. Temi, this is Ashoebi. Do you know what that means? It means we are together in this. Temi glared. But I don't feel together with any of this. No. And then it was time for the parade. It was chaos and color and joy until it wasn't. Temi had just stepped aside to text when a group of older girls from another school approached her. You from the African float? One asked, eyes cold. Before she could answer, another pushed her lightly. Say something with your Ankara self. What do you think? You better than us with your accent? Say something with your Ankara self. That moment hung in the air, thick with tension and the distant beat of drums. Temi froze, fingers still on her phone screen, pounding louder than the parade music. Her gele, proudly tied earlier by her mom, now felt like a spotlight. The girls closed in, not with face, but with mocking grin sharpened by insecurity. One of them chuckled again. Where your mother buy that fabric? Home Depot? Laughter, cruel, contagious. Temi swallowed hard. The sting wasn't just from the words, it was from the shame creeping in, trying to swallow her pride whole. Behind her, the sounds of Joshua's drum troop echoed, joyful, oblivious. She tightened her grip on her phone, blinking back tears. She didn't know whether to run or to roll. She stood frozen. She didn't even have an accent. But before the insults got worse, her brother Joshua stormed in, holding the drumstick like a sword. She's not alone! He shouted, puffing his chest. As scuffle started, it ended quickly. Parents intervened, but the memories stayed on. That night, Papa Craig sat both kids down, after all the excitement of the day had worn out. Sometimes, your difference will be your weapon. Sometimes, it will be your wound, but never let it be your shame. Echoes in the Concrete. Recap. You've met Mama Craig and witnessed her love for the legendary Ebenezer Obey, cooking and sewing. You saw Papa Craig struggle to accept that there isn't an absolutely perfect system, even though they live in what his wife called the land of opportunities. And yes, we can't forget the heroic Joshua, who surprisingly has took in a lot of his parents' culture than is expected, while his sister Timmy is still caught between the two worlds, slowly shaping her identity. Now, let's see where the next chapters take us in the story of being raised by two worlds. Chapter 4. A surprise came in the mail. Timmy sits on the living room floor in soft afternoon light, surrounded by opened envelopes and folded letters. It was a package from Grandma in Nigeria. Inside were handwritten letters, each one filled with proverbs, some pictures, life stories, and recipe cards. She gently holds one handwritten sheet close, her face a mix of wonder and pride. Beside her, a small package from Nigeria laid open with a few packed spices and a yellow recipe card labeled, "For Timmy, you are ready." Mama Craig stands in the background, watching with a knowing smile, while Joshua peeks over Timmy's shoulder, curious as Timmy folded each letter slowly, savoring the creases and scent of distant earth. Grandma's handwriting curled across the pages like vines, soft, strong, and full of memory. One recipe was for egusi soup, but the message was much deeper. Another was for ofada sauce, a spicy, pungent dish Timmy had once gagged at, but now she held the recipe card like an heirloom. Emma Craig knelt beside her, touched the card and whispered, "She knows. You've crossed into your own story now." Timmy didn't answer. She just nodded, holding the card a little tighter. She had gagged the first time Mama Craig made ofada sauce. It was 2 years ago, a Saturday, and the smell had filled the apartment like an uninvited guest. Spicy, smoky, loud. She walked into the kitchen, wrinkled her nose, and shouted over the sizzle, "Mom, something is burning!" Mama Craig at hand, spatula in hand, wearing a triumphant smile. "It's supposed to smell like that." Timmy had fled to her room with the juice box, swearing she'd never eat anything that looked like lava and smelled like revenge. Now, holding her grandmother's recipe card, she smiled without meaning to. She hadn't understood it then, but this wasn't just food. It was memory, it was voice, it was her. And this time, she stayed. Slowly, she began to read the letters at night. And then one day, to everyone's surprise, she asked Mama Craig to teach her how to cook. They stood side by side in the kitchen. "Tear it slow, let the palm oil rise," her mom said. "I thought you said fast hands make fast food." Mama Craig smiled, but slow hands make memories. Chapter 5. By spring, Timmy had submitted her poem to a citywide group contest. It was written in the hush of one evening, inspired by the rhythm of sizzling palm oil and the scent of fried eru curling from Mama Craig's pot, surrounded by quiet sound. The scrape of Mama Craig's spoon, the soft ease of stew, the steady whisper of her own breath. Timmy didn't plan to write a poem. It came the way something do, like scent, like a core memory, the sound of yam being pounded just before dinner, the language of my mother's hands. Each line dripped with the things she didn't yet know how to say out loud. The next day, when her teacher read it, she paused, then read it again and again. Finally, she looked up. "Timmy, this poem doesn't belong in your notebook. It belongs in the world." She won second place. The ceremony was held at the Brooklyn Public Library. When Timmy stood behind the stadium, her heart was surging. Mama Craig and Papa Craig in the front row dressed proudly and stood out in their traditional attire. Joshua waved at her, mouthing, "Go, go, go." Timmy cleared her throat and read, her voice steady. "Her hands carry heat, pies, silence. Her fingers know the story that my mouth forgot. I'm learning to listen again, not with ears, but with hunger." And she read on. The room hushed, then applause, like rainfall. Later, a stranger approached Mama Craig. "Your daughter made me miss my grandmother." "Thank you." In a similar fashion, Joshua performed his first solo drum piece at the local cultural fest following weekend. The beats were clumsy at first, but with every thump, the crowd clapped louder. Papa Craig beamed like someone had handed him a trophy. One Sunday evening, as the family sat around their small fire escape, grilling the pin's elbow and roasting chicken suya, Timmy looked up from her phone. "Think maybe I want to visit Lagos next summer?" Papa Craig nearly choked his drink. Mama Craig's smile was a thorn right from where she stood, basking in a blessing. "But I'll still want burgers when I come back." Timmy had it, grinning. They all laughed, and in that moment, above the city's roar, something unspoken passed between them. Not blood, not a language, not even food, but legacy. Invisible, deliberate, home. Chapter 6. The heat hit Timmy like a slap as soon as she stepped out of Murtala Mohammed International Airport. "Is the sun hungry here?" she muttered. In her face, her breast hit slightly from the humidity. Joshua was running around with excitement, pointing at everything like he'd entered a new planet. Eerie, nearly age 2 now, clung to Mama Craig, wide-eyed. After they found their way out of the hands of the notorious immigration protocol at the arrival, they were swept into the famous Lagos rush hour traffic. The roads were jammed like paint squeezed too tight on a pallet. Horns blared with reckless joy. Street hawkers chased after their car, offering sausage rolls, plantain chips, and cold pure water sachet among non-famous traffic merchandise only possible in cities like Lagos. Billboards screamed in both English and Pidgin, "Vote for progress, Naija no dey carry last." My grandmother's house in Obalende was not what Temi expected. It wasn't fancy, but it had a long courtyard with a mango tree, iron gate painted methuen, and the smell of something rich and smoky coming from the kitchen. Grandma Foluke, a petite, regal woman with peppered grey hair and a voice like a drum roll, met them at the gate with open arms and a smile that folded jokers into her cheek. "You came, finally, thank God." She pulled Timmy in, palm on her chest. I knew one day the concrete would echo back my voice. Chapter 7. If Brooklyn had been a melting pot, Lagos was a full-on spice market. Every relative had something to say loudly, with hands that moved as fast as their words. Aunties pitched Timmy's cheeks, laughing. "Americana, see as you fine." Uncles clapped Josh's shoulders like they were tenderizing meat, asking when it starts praying in Yoruba. Little cousins darted in and out of the courtyard, poking at her sneakers like they were artifacts from a museum, whispering in a mix of Yoruba and English she could only half catch. The air smelled of food almost all the time, spicy, flavorful, and over it all, Grandma Foluke's voice rose above the din, oraling everyone like the general of a joyful army, a matriarch in real flesh. One of the evenings, at the crowded dinner table, with bowls of steaming meals dipped into plates, the conversation swirled around Timmy like a current. Rapid Yoruba, punctuated by bursts of laughter. She caught her name, then another word she almost recognized, but it slipped away. They were smiling. It meant no harm, but it's strong. To be honest, I've got my own opinion about what happens next, but I want to hear yours first. Put in the comments and like this video if you are ready for more twists. "I'm right here," she said finally, her voice sharper than she intended. The table quieted. Grandma Foluke's eyes found hers, steady and warm. "You hear our words," she said slowly, "but not our weight. Language is not just sound, it is soul. You must listen deeper." Timmy looked down at her plate, the heat in her cheeks, not from the pepper. Later that night, Timmy sat with her cousin, Tola, a sharp-eyed 16-year-old with an uncharacteristic confidence and a mischievous grin. They bonded over music and sarcasm. "So, in America, you don't fetch water?" "No," Timmy laughed. "We complain if the Wi-Fi is slow." Tola grinned. "You are soft like fresh gigi bread. We will toughen you up small." Chapter 8. 2 weeks into the trip, a surprise downpour caught them in Yaba Market. The sky cracked open without warning, turning Yaba Market into a river of noise and movement. Traders yanked tops over their stores, water spilling from sagging edges onto umbrellas and shades covering the stacks of thrifted clothes, bags, and food items typical of the market. The air was thick with the smell of dust and exhaust fumes. Timmy, clutching a plastic shopping bag, dodged a woman balancing a sack of peppers on her head, only for her sneaker to skid on a patch of muddy water. Her arms pinwheeled as a vendor shouted, "Fine girl, be careful oh." Around her, people darted for cover beneath makeshift awning, voice rising in Yoruba, Pidgin and hurried English. The rain pounding harder like he wanted to drown the city. Street vendors scrambled to cover their goods. Timmy slipped in muddy water. Her jeans soaked. She started to cry. Heart hunger, heart shame, heart exhaustion. And then a hand reached down. It was Grandma, holding a plastic bag over her head, shoes soaked, eyes full of calm. "Don't cry, my daughter. Rain falls for everyone, even queens." That night, Grandma made yam porridge and told Timmy about her youth, about raising 5 sons, 3 jobs, and a love letter she once wrote but never sent. Timmy listened with awe, finally understanding the ocean between stories and history. When Timmy went to bed that night, she scrawled something on her phone note. "She carries storms like jewelry. I want to be like that." Chapter 9. At a family gathering, an naming ceremony for a distant cousin, Timmy and Joshua were asked to share a family story. The panic. "What story?" Grandma stepped in. "Tell them about the winter you made fufu and wore gloves." The room erupted in laughter. Now, this is the moment everything changes. But is it for better or worse? Comment your guess and give this video a like if you want to see the truth unfold. It was nearing the end of the ceremony. Food was ready to be served in the typical Yoruba party fashion. Papa Craig stood in the far corner, his voice carrying easily over the chatter. In Nigeria, he began, his eyes moving between Temi and Joshua. A name is not just what you answer to, it's what answers in you. A few people hushed. Havas turned to listen. He adjusted his glasses, the overhead fan tearing the edges of his abada. Temilade and Joshua, your names are deliberate. You were named for joy and loss, for strength after storms, even if life bends you. He paused, letting the silence swell. Never let her break you. Temi's pulse quickened. She could feel Grandma Foluke's gaze on her, steady and sure, like an anchor in a storm. She rose from her chair, smoothed her Ankara dress, and cleared her throat. The room shifted, guests leaned in, children still, the hair seemed to tighten. Temi began reciting the poem she had once read at the Brooklyn Public Library, her voice trebling at first, then growing, finding its rhythm. Halfway through, she stopped. She closed her eyes and in deliberate Yoruba began to add the verses she had practiced with Tola. The unfamiliar syllables felt strange in the mouth, then powerful. In the back, aunties exchanged quick glances. And Uncle's chin lifted in surprise. By the time she reached the final line, the quiet in the room was thick. Then applause rolled in. Some guests even stood, clapping with both hands raised. Others wiped their eyes. See? Grandma Foluke said softly, almost to herself. She has remembered. Pause for a moment. What's running through your mind right now? Tell me in the comments. And if this story has your attention, let's lock it in with a like. Chapter 10. It was the night before their departure. The air was thick with the scent of ripe mangoes and the distant hum of the city. Under the old mango tree, its wide branches sheltering them like an embrace, families sat together in the courtyard. Fireflies blinked in the warm darkness, winking like tiny stars scattered just for them. Grandma Foluke sat close to Temi, her knees tucked under her wrapper, her eyes holding the weight of both farewell and blessing. She reached into a woven basket beside her and pulled out a small, well-worn box. Temi opened it slowly. Inside lay a wrapper, floral. The colors faded but still singing softly of another time. The fabric was impossibly soft, carrying the faint smell of Grandma Foluke, as though it remembered every place it had been. This was mine, Grandma Foluke said, her voice as steady as the ground beneath them. When I first came to Lagos from the village, I wore it on my first day at the market, my first job, and the day I met your grandfather. It will look old in New York. That is good. Let it remind you, you carry more than passport and phone. Temi's throat tightened. She wrapped her arms around Grandma, holding on like she could keep the moment from slipping away. I don't want to leave, she whispered to her shoulder. Grandma smiled against her cheek. You are not leaving, you are carrying. And back in Brooklyn, the chill felt sharper after the heat of Lagos. By the time Temi climbed the school steps, the city's approaching autumn sky hung low and grey. But something inside her still carried mango sunsets and the hum of Lagos market. Her accent was the same, flat, New York, fast. But her stories had changed. Now her essays began with proverbs like, okay, I will pause for a second because I want to hear your take. What would you say to the main character right now? And don't forget to like if you want more stories like this. A tree does not make a forest. Her English teacher raised an eyebrow the first time, then smiled. One day, the lunchroom buzzed with the usual chaos, plastic trays clattering, sneakers squeaking on the linoleum, the low hum of 100 overlapping conversations. The meal wove through the tables with her lunch, the fluorescent lights above catching the bright and Kara's crunchy, pulling back her braids. Mama Craig had sewn it from a leftover fabric after making a blouse. It looked almost like it didn't belong in a school cafeteria, and that was exactly right in me. Into our usual seat with Kiara, who immediately leaned forward, eyes narrowing on the scrunchie. Cute, Tiara said, reaching out as if to touch it. Temi smirked, leaning back just slightly. It's not just cute, she said, her voice low but proud. It's history. For a moment, over the smell of reheated pizza, burgers and fries, she thought of Lagos, market stalls stacked high with clothes, her mother's careful hands cutting fabric, Grandma Foluke's mango tree swaying in the dust. Another time, between the rush of classes, Temi found herself leaning against lockers with a small crowd of friends gathered around her. Káàbọ̀, she said slowly, exaggerating the syllables. It means welcome. Her friends repeated it, voices stumbling over the rise and fall of the tones, laughing at their own attempt. Káàbọ̀, one tried. Temi smiled, shaking her head. Close, but try it again. Listen first. When they got it right, she grinned. Good. Now, oh yeah, now. She explained how it could mean let's go or come on, depending on your tone. They tried it out on each other, mixing it into theirs. Oh yeah, now, race you to the vending machine. Kihara yelled, already running. The hallway echoed with laughter, sneakers squeaking. Temi felt a warmth in her heart, like part of Lagos had followed her here, settling between the locusts and the noise. When a substitute teacher mispronounced her name, Temi didn't shrink into her seat like before. She corrected them, clearly, twice. Epilogue. Sometimes the ending isn't the real lesson. What do you think the story was really about? Share in the comments, and if you loved it, give it a like so others can find it too. Mama Craig smiled now, watching the recording of her daughter teaching a dance at the community center. Papa Craig now plays Fela on the weekends again. Afrobeats, feeling the home. Joshua starts a Yoruba Word of the Day YouTube channel. This day, the living room was unusually quiet. No record player, no TV blaring cartoons. Just the sound of Joshua clearing his throat dramatically into Mama Craig's phone. Káàárọ̀, he said, his grin wide and mischievous. That means, good morning. Today's Yoruba Word of the Day is sùúrù, patience. He didn't close that to the camera. If you no get sùúrù, you can't eat my bones pop when it's still hot. From behind the camera, Temi groaned. You're gonna get cancelled even before you get famous, huh? But Joshua was in his element. He repeated the word slowly, breaking it into syllables, then used it in a sentence while pointing to Mama Craig in the corner. See? My mom has to doing laundry for the family every weekend. Mama Craig folded laundry nearby was shaking with laughter. You better teach them well, oh, Professor Joshua. And Grandma's wrapper? Rests above Temi's head. The faded floral wrapper hung tightly, its edges pinned just enough to keep its gentle folds. The evening light in Temi's bedroom, always soft, filtered through the chair curtains, Mama Craig had insisted made the place feel like home. Beside the wrapper, in perfect contrast, was a framed photo of the New York skyline, steel glass and sharp edges, glowing against the sunset. Together, they were like two halves of her own story, one rooted in the quiet strength of mango trees and village culture, the other in the restless hum of subways and city lights. Some nights, when the world felt too loud, she would look at them both before sleeping, a reminder that she didn't have to choose between them, she could carry them side by side. Concrete and memory, Lagos and Brooklyn, Bagels and Bali, two words, one echo. Because your roots will always find you. The end. I'm curious to read your take in the comments, and if you felt something watching this, tap like before you go. Tap it now.